It was supposed to be one of those moments people replay in their minds for the rest of their lives. A quiet, intentional, and deeply personal marriage proposal. You know, the kind where love feels undeniable, where the world just seems to pause for two people who've chosen each other. But instead of a private, magical memory, what unfolded was a tense, awkward, and painfully public showdown that left everyone watching feeling secondhand embarrassment. And at the center of it, Zach standing there with a ring, trying to give his partner a moment she'd treasure forever, while a wave of noise, judgment, and chaos started crashing in from the very people who should have been celebrating. This wasn't just bad timing or a little harmless teasing. This was a perfect example of how family dynamics, especially in the Plath family, can turn even the purest intentions into a stage for insecurity, competition, and old resentments to bubble up. You've got Zach, calm and steady, ready to take a life-changing step. Lydia, caught between her love for her family and her own future. Ethan and Micah, the brothers who seem to bristle at the idea of being outshone. And Kim, well, Kim's presence is always felt, even when she's not saying much. And then, almost like the universe decided this wasn't dramatic enough, there was that other moment. The one nobody saw coming, the burning incident. We'll get to that later, but let me just say, it was one of those moments that made the entire situation even messier. Hi friends, my name is Sophie and welcome back to Reality Scandals Daily, where we break down the moments reality TV won't let you forget. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you never miss an update, and let me know in the comments, have you ever seen a proposal go this wrong? Because this one, it's going to stick with you. What we're about to talk about isn't just a proposal, gone wrong story. It's a story about maturity versus insecurity, about what happens when a reality TV family we've been watching for years can't quite let go of their own control, even when it's someone else's moment to shine. Zach isn't the kind of man who makes decisions lightly. If you've been watching this season, you already know. He moves with intention. He doesn't blurt things out for attention, and he doesn't do grand gestures just for show. When he decided he was ready to propose to Lydia, it wasn't a spur-of-the-moment whim. It was something he'd been quietly preparing for, making sure the setting, the words, and the timing all honored not just the relationship, but the woman he was about to ask to spend her life with him. For Zach, this wasn't about flash or extravagance. It was about respect. Respect for Lydia's values, for her family ties, and for the seriousness of the commitment he was about to make. He wanted her to feel seen, cherished, and protected. Every detail reflected that, right down to the fact that he'd chosen a peaceful location, away from distractions, so the focus would be entirely on the two of them. Lydia, for her part, has always been the quiet anchor in a family that thrives on strong personalities and sometimes messy emotions. Soft-spoken and deeply loyal, she often finds herself in the role of peacemaker. But this season, something has shifted. We've seen glimpses of a young woman starting to imagine a life that's hers alone, a life where her choices aren't filtered through the expectations of her parents or siblings. And this proposal? It wasn't just a relationship milestone. It was a line in the sand. The spot Zach picked was meant to capture that transition, simple, serene, and open, almost symbolic of the future they could build together. There was no crowd, no elaborate staging, just a man and a woman and a promise that would set the tone for the rest of their lives. For both of them, this moment was bigger than just, "Will you marry me?" For Zach, it was proof that love could be steady and thoughtful, even in a world where drama often steals the spotlight. For Lydia, it was a chance to step toward independence while still honoring where she came from. And for the audience, it should have been a rare glimpse of genuine intimacy on a show where those moments are so often overshadowed. Of course, that's not quite how it played out. Everything was set. The romantic, peaceful moment Zach had envisioned was about to unfold, and Lydia was glowing with anticipation. That's when Ethan, ever the wild card of this family, decided to crank up the energy. Literally. On camera, he produced a small fire starter and, with a mischievous grin, flicked it toward the carefully staged area Zach had prepared. Sparks flew, smoke curled, the serene backdrop turned tense in a matter of seconds. Zach's response was immediate, but not the kind you'd expect from someone caught in a classic reality TV confrontation. His jaw tightened, eyes focused, hands steady. There was no shout, no dramatic reaction for the cameras, just a calm restraint that contrasted sharply with the chaos Ethan had intentionally ignited. Zach bent slightly, ensuring Lydia stepped back safely, all while keeping his gaze on Ethan, not with fear, but with a quiet, controlled warning. Ethan, of course, seemed thrilled by the disruption. That signature smirk, the one viewers have seen light up the screen every time he toes the line between fun and cruel, spread across his face. He wasn't apologetic, he wasn't worried, he was performing. For him, the moment wasn't about a proposal or a relationship milestone. It was about spectacle, chaos, and the subtle satisfaction of seeing someone else's carefully planned moment wobble. Micah was nearby, his arms crossed, leaning slightly against a railis. Nung. He said nothing, intervened not at all, and yet his body language communicated quiet amusement. A small chuckle escaped him as he watched the tension escalate, signaling in classic Micah fashion that he was entertained but not invested in correcting the situation. He was an observer, a participant only in the sense of bearing witness to the drama. Kim, on the other hand, was largely silent. She didn't call out Ethan for disrespect or caution him about timing or sensitivity. Only when the sparks crept too close to props or guests did she interject, her voice clipped, alert, and focused on safety rather than propriety. Her reaction underscored an ongoing dynamic fans of the family have seen over seasons. Rules and corrections come for physical danger, but breaches of respect, planning, or emotional consideration rarely get the same immediate attention. The scene, captured fully by cameras, was chaotic yet revealing. This wasn't just a momentary lapse of judgment. It was a distilled snapshot of the family's patterns. Zach's maturity, his careful intention, and his measured responses have consistently contrasted with Ethan's impulsive, performative energy. Micah's detachment highlights the passive complicity often seen in the background, while Kim's selective engagement reflects a prioritization of order over emotional sensitivity. It's a family that thrives on spectacle, where respect and consideration are negotiable, and where moments meant for intimacy can quickly become stages for performance. By the end of it, the sparks had died down, but the tension lingered, an unspoken question in the air. Can Zach's careful, thoughtful love withstand the family forces aligned against it? And more importantly, how will Lydia navigate her place between the romance she deserves and the chaos she's inherited? The smoke from Ethan's stunt hadn't even cleared before Micah stepped in, not with fire or fury, but with words that carried weight. "If you hurt my sister." His voice was low, deliberate, and just sharp enough to be heard over the lingering tension. Timing, though, was key. It came after the chaos, after Ethan had made his point, and in a way that highlighted the disconnect fans have seen over the years. Micah has been quick to comment on others' behavior, yet his own past, missed responsibilities, moments of avoidance, and subtle self-interest reminded viewers that this wasn't the first time he'd chosen observation over intervention. Ethan, naturally, took the comment as a challenge rather than a boundary. Leaning back slightly, chest puffed, smirk still in place, he postured as the alpha of the room. But viewers, familiar with his patterns from previous seasons, his struggles with Olivia, his repeated difficulties communicating his feelings honestly, and his tendency to escalate conflicts for performance, could see right through the veneer. His version of strength was always performative, loud, visible, meant to impress rather than protect or respect. Contrast that with Zach. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't throw his posture into the fight. He simply held his ground, steady and unflinching, allowing his restraint and thoughtfulness to speak louder than any shout or showy display. Every careful glance toward Lydia, every measured gesture, broadcasted the kind of quiet, enduring strength that has rarely been rewarded in the family's more theatrical history. While Ethan and Micah were busy performing roles, the protective brother, the alpha male, Zach embodied maturity in action, not in proclamation. This clash was more than just a single moment of family tension. It was a microcosm of a recurring theme the cameras have captured season after season. Performative masculinity, the kind that demands visibility, attention, and dominance, often masks insecurity and the inability to handle nuanced emotional situations. True maturity, as Zach demonstrates, is quieter. It doesn't need validation from a camera crew or the crowd. It shows itself in calm judgment, in prioritizing the well-being of the person you care about over ego, and in withstanding provocations without spectacle. Lydia, caught in the middle, becomes the unspoken judge of this dynamic. Her brother's posturing, Ethan's theatrics, and Zach's patience all send messages, not just about love, but about what kind of men she can trust, rely on, and respect. For the audience, it's an instructive contrast. The flash of bravado versus the enduring weight of integrity. The family, as ever, is a stage, but some performances have consequences that linger beyond the cameras. By the time this moment settled, viewers could already sense the tension's larger narrative arc, a battle between impulsive showmanship and grounded maturity, between the need to control appearances and the quiet confidence that earns genuine respect. And the question remains, hovering in the hearts of fans. In a family so tuned to spectacle, will Zach's calm strength ultimately triumph over performative chaos, or will the pattern repeat itself once more? Once the smoke and posturing had settled, Zach turned toward Lydia with a calm, unwavering gaze. In a quiet, almost intimate moment captured by the cameras, he revealed something that left the room momentarily silent. He and Lydia had not kissed yet, not once. They had deliberately chosen to save that step for marriage. Ethan raised an eyebrow, Micah's smirk twitching ever so slightly, both men clearly skeptical. The questions came fast, layered with incredulity. Wait, really? You haven't at all? There was a subtle undertone, a gentle shaming, the kind that implied restraint was somehow naive or impractical. Their disbelief wasn't malicious, it was performative, a reflection of their discomfort with something that doesn't fit the family's usual playbook of visible romance and bold displays. Zach, however, remained composed. He explained in his measured tone that choosing to avoid physical intimacy at this stage wasn't about judgment or prudishness. It was about emotional clarity. He wanted their relationship to grow without the complications that physical intimacy can introduce too early. It was a conscious choice to protect both Lydia and himself, to ensure that their connection was grounded in respect, trust, and shared values rather than fleeting attraction or impulse. The brothers' reactions, subtle as they were, spoke volumes. Their skepticism revealed a deep discomfort with relationships that operate outside of their expectations, models of love that don't prioritize visible passion, physical expression, or immediate gratification. For them, emotional boundaries are often secondary to social signals of masculinity and romantic conquest. Zach's approach, quiet and principled, challenges this framework, highlighting a fundamental difference in values. For viewers, this moment crystallizes a recurring theme within the Plath family, the tension between performs, ants, and principle. Ethan and Micah are products of a culture where actions are meant to be witnessed and validated, where love often becomes a spectacle. Zach represents a counterpoint, a maturity that prioritizes intention over appearance, depth over display. The contrast is striking, especially in a season defined by publicized drama and performative interactions. As Lydia listens, a mixture of pride and relief crosses her face. The choice they've made together, quietly radical in the context of their family, underscores not just her trust in Zach, but the kind of partnership she values. It's a rare moment of clarity amid chaos, a reaffirmation that love, boundaries, and personal integrity can coexist even in a family so attuned to spectacle. The room had barely settled from the boundaries conversation when Ethan leaned forward, a sharp, incredulous edge in his voice, and asked Zach the question that made viewers wince. So, are you gay? The timing was jarring. Cameras captured the pause, the collective intake of breath, and the subtle tightening of Lydia's jaw. What was meant to be a quiet affirmation of values had suddenly been twisted into a public interrogation of identity. For the audience who had followed the Plath family over seasons, the question landed as shockingly tone-deaf. Ethan's words disregarded context, respect, and basic decorum. Zach was clearly taken aback, but never flustered. His response was calm, measured, and deliberate. Refusing to rise to the bait, he affirmed his orientation with quiet confidence, never letting the question derail the dignity of the moment. It was a masterclass in composure, maintaining personal integrity in the face of provocation. Ethan's query, however, revealed much more than mere curiosity. It exposed underlying insecurities, both about control and perception. Across previous seasons, viewers have seen him grapple with the challenges to his authority, moments where emotional vulnerability triggered defensive posturing. Here, he weaponized doubt, using the most intimate form of questioning possible to unsettle Zach and assert dominance. Micah and Kim remained relatively neutral, watching the interaction with restrained expressions. Their silence subtly reinforced the pattern. Ethan thrives in creating tension, while the others often observe rather than intervene. For the audience, this moment crystallized a recurring theme within the Plath family: insecurity masquerading as control. Ethan's need to challenge Zach's character, even publicly, contrasted starkly with Zach's quiet, steadfast maturity. The incident illuminated the family's dynamic: the performative bravado, the subtle undermining, and the patterns of testing boundaries. By the end, Zach's poise had shifted the narrative. What could have been an awkward, humiliating moment became instead a quiet statement of self-assurance. And for viewers, it reinforced a lesson they've witnessed throughout the seasons. True confidence rarely needs to shout, and maturity often speaks loudest in silence. By the end of the day, it was clear that Lydia was the quiet center of a storm swirling with ego, posturing, and old family patterns. Zach's proposal, intended as a tender, intimate moment, had unintentionally shone a harsh light on the Plath family dynamics, revealing insecurities, performative masculinity, and the subtle ways tension is normalized. Lydia, soft-spoken and loyal, found herself caught between a family that often centers itself and a partner who unapologetically centers her. It was a stark reminder that love and loyalty don't always exist on equal footing with ego and expectation. This proposal day exposed more about the family than any argument or confession could. Every glance, smirk, and carefully chosen word became a window into years of relational patterns: the power plays, the need to control narratives, and the difficulty in respecting boundaries. Zach's calm, grounded presence highlighted how maturity can quietly disrupt these cycles, while the family's reactions revealed how entrenched old habits are, even when confronted with something as beautiful and simple as a marriage proposal. The pressing question lingers: will Lydia continue absorbing the tension, quietly navigating around it, or will she assert the boundaries she's clearly considering? Viewers can't help but wonder what choices will define her character moving forward. Will this be a turning point, a lesson in self-advocacy, or just another episode in the ongoing reality of family drama? From my perspective at Reality Scandals Daily, this isn't just a story about a proposal. It's about watching the tension between maturity and insecurity play out in real time. Moments like these remind us how complex family dynamics can be and how courage sometimes looks like quiet patience rather than confrontation. So here's my challenge to you, our viewers. How would you navigate this situation? Would you enforce your boundaries or try to manage the tensions for the sake of harmony? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one, and I can't wait to see what you all think. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to Reality Scandals Daily so you don't miss a single twist in the Plath family saga.